so also something you're only going to get in with our Nas pod. Love this idea from Oz here. State of the franchise.
Yeah. The theory behind it is the NFL season's over, but like we still need to fill that void of the NFL, the knowledge. So I thought it would be a great idea to kind of break down week by week the state of a franchise, 2 franchises per week in the NFL. So kind of chopping up in my head, thinking about how we want to break it down, what would get us through, what would bridge the next couple months for us. I kind of came up with a little cadence. We're going to look to follow it, but this is our own thing. So
right, since football,
whatever happens, happens.
Right, since football is like, you know what I mean? What
our thing, absolutely.
This makes the most sense.
Yep.
And also, it is the thing that most people want. So
yeah.
It also makes the most sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. We all love the draft. We all live for the draft. As soon as the Super Bowl is over, it's like, all right, draft. Well, a little bit of free agency, sign those things, but the draft. So what I thought would be an awesome way to bridge the gap would be to start this state of the franchise segment. So each week we're going to take 2 teams. We're going to break them down. And you'll see we're going to give you some facts and some particulars about each franchise that kind of make up the state of where they're at. And then we are going to, in the end, we're going to give you some predictions, some free agent people who we think may go places. But the way that we're going to break it down is we're going to start with the draft order. So our first 2 today will be the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Detroit Lions. So I hope we can build on this idea.
Yeah, I love it. I think that it is really great. Gonna, like you said, bridge the gap to where we want to get.
Sure.
Because we can always talk football. There's never a time, especially. I mean, I'm not just talking like the week after the Super Bowl where we're talking about Super Bowl. We can always just talk anything about football at any given point.
Time,
so I think this is a great idea to keep us engaged, and also. I think that for a little like behind the scenes view here, I'm a big fan of like people understanding how we do feel about these franchises, so they understand the context when we're just having a conversation about them in the future, about maybe where we do stand on it. So, start off.
Yeah, we can kick it off. So
right.
The first team, they have the number 1 draft pick in the 2022 draft is Jacksonville. Back-to-back years number 1. So
never want to hear that.
You never want that as a franchise.
Hard.
But a quick recap of the Jaguars: they did go 3-14, so they had the worst record in the league, which awarded them the first overall pick again. This year was kind of crazy for them.
Kind of.
They had Trevor, the
disclaimer: I'm a big Trevor Lawrence fan. I think he can play.
The almighty Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
He had like 3 losses or something before he came to the NFL.
Yeah.
Something unheard of. So it was his rookie
high school
year.
and college combined.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was his rookie year. They brought in Urban.
Yep.
The QB whisperer. It was his first time treading those NFL waters. But they had agreements to build a whole new town in Duval. Like do the whole thing with the ownership there.
Yep.
The Cons. Those guys. If you dream it, don't make it happen.
That is very true.
So it kind of looked like they were really turning around. But then the first thing, it started early.
Thursday night.
Thursday
night was the football.
Yeah, that was the Chop House.
What were you going at?
I was going at when he hired that dude from
the strength and
conditioning coach. The second how do you hire someone the second you announce it, everyone hates you?
Well,
like literally, it was like, it wasn't even 30 minutes. Everyone was like, oh, well, I absolutely hate everyone.
Disclaimer, I think all college coaches, I'll disclude Marcus Freeman because I don't know about him yet, but all college coaches are scum, right? I feel that way just in general because
except for Coach JB,
because
he's the realist.
Because the way they got to get it, right? So Urban, though, I felt like he was like the scum of the scum before he got there. So when this guy from Iowa gets in trouble, right, and then less than I think it was only a couple weeks removed.
Yeah,
Urban, like you said, hires
brings it to the NFL.
The players were like, nah.
Yeah, everyone was like, nah.
Well, his own locker room, like the first impression before they even have a full probably team meeting because he was just probably meeting individual positions by themselves at this point.
Yeah.
They haven't been together yet.
And it was all virtual.
They didn't like him already, like you said, from the moment, and it's just like that's Urban Meyer.
It's
like
crazy.
that's the best way to sum him up.
And then he decides to take they go to Cincinnati, I believe it was, or no, Cleveland.
No, it was in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati on a Thursday night. You know,
that was McPherson's first game-winning field goal.
Cool. Well, awesome fun fact that you can only get on the Hood and Ozz pod.
Boom.
Hood and Ozz pod. But yeah, so he decides to after a loss, not get on the airplane with his team and say, "Okay, gentlemen, we're going to go back here together. We're going to tuck our tails. We're going to learn from this. We're going to start watching film right now on the plane." No, I want to see the grandbabies. He said. So he stays.
Here, this isn't a job that you can just, I'm going to see the grandbabies because I'm in town.
I'm not going to go home.
Right. This isn't a job. Like the NFL coaches, all of them will tell you this is not a job you can do that. Like the off week, the bye week, the
unbelievable
off days,
work demand.
Right. The off days are not off days for you. Like the off days are off days for the players.
Yeah.
Like the coaches don't feel like they're working like they feel like the players are working. They feel like they're just sitting down and doing stuff. Yeah. So like they all genuinely don't take a day off. Urban literally took the Friday off. Saturday went to a football game. Partied all day. Can you imagine this? Day drink all day. This is the head coach of an NFL team. Day drink all day on Saturday. After you just, by the way, you haven't won a game yet this year. And then you got caught doing what you did, which, hey, listen, I mean, not for me, but not good.
I mean, unbelievable, dude. Like,
you want to see the grandbabies and then,
Then you're on video at the Chop House doing what you're doing. I mean,
Urban Meyer, man.
It was not a good look. So obviously,
and as somebody, listen, I am not somebody who likes to tout on people not doing well, but I would have absolutely, like, if we were doing the show when he got hired, I would have been saying, well, I can't wait to watch the disaster.
See what happens.
And then as it was happening, I would have just been like,
told you so.
They are holding the "told you so" sign up the whole time. Like, this is great.
No,
this is great.
100%. He's a stooge.
Is it what
he completely put a bad stigma around them. It was just, it really wasn't fair to Trevor. It really wasn't fair to any of those guys who were, I mean, they just had a shitty season. Like, they literally just had a shitty season. Thought he was going to,
and the thing about
bring him back, and he didn't.
It was players and coaches that, like it was everybody together that was like,
well, he was disrespecting guys.
Right,
like, if that story about him going around, that's just insane. He kicked the kicker.
Wasn't there in preseason too?
And it was the Cowboy game, and like the kicker said he kicked him hard enough to feel it. I mean, regardless, the fact that you feel as though you can kick another grown man, it's like the Juwan Howard situation. He's lucky. Let's just say
it's not a laughing matter. That makes me laugh. Like, he kicked the kicker. Like why?
Like my boy Pat said, you kicked the right kicker because you're lucky you ain't kicked the wrong motherfucker.
Yeah, you're right.
You're lucky you didn't get stolen the mouth.
You might not have been afraid of that kicker.
Completely. And then the coaches tell him how much of a failure he is. That's just unbelievable. But through all of that, I think they got their first win in London.
Yep.
Which is awesome. So like that was kind of a joke how like they didn't win in America for a number of years. Yeah, they beat Buffalo in like mid-season. I think like 9-6 or something crazy like that. Yeah. So they had the makings.
That was Josh Allen's worst game.
And like that's kudos to that locker room. The fact that they were able to
put something together
and still come out on top. And then I think it was huge going into the offseason that they went out there and they just completely dominated the Indianapolis Colts.
Yes.
The Colts had the playoffs on the line. They had so much ride. They had so much expectations. They had 7 Pro Bowlers, the most Pro Bowlers.
Yep.
And they literally had no command in that game. They had no chance.
Jacksonville had them out of their game.
From start to finish.
Yep.
So from a state of the franchise point of view, that is, if you're going to end a shitty season, you might as well end it like that. So.
Especially if Trevor Lawrence, which, by the way, his best game was that last game. Yeah. So, like, that's another part of, like, okay, you have a way to uplift it. I thought Trevor Lawrence throughout the whole season, as you were saying, because I understood the context of coaching that he had around him, talent that he had blocking for him, X, Y, and Z, whatever. I felt like did a lot of good things that you could feel like you're going to build off of in the future. You got to get the right people around him, coaches, blocking, everything.
And that's why, moving on to the next point of, kind of the recap or heading into the next season, they're bringing in WP.
My guy.
A Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
The guy's an Andy Reid guy, so he knows what a locker room looks like. He knows what a winning coaching staff looks like to put together.
Yep.
I think that's huge. I think it's kudos to the Cons and to that. I know not many people are fans of that GM, but But if you're gonna have a guy who can deal with a challenging GM, bring in Doug EP.
Listen, Doug, yeah.
I mean, he did wonders with Howie. So.
Well, the other side of it is, I don't think Doug would have accepted a job because the whole reason he left the situation in Philly without knowing 100% that he's going to be able to, at minimum, I don't think he wants to do the draft.
Yeah.
He wants to have his hands on everything, though, like the day of roster construction.
Which he should,
right, he's the head coach. Like, I don't disagree. But I do, and also, like, a little bit in the draft. So I think what you're saying there, and everything that Doug, I thought, was involved in, where it wasn't like he was. A lot of that I felt like was really good talent evaluation and blah blah blah.
Oh, absolutely.
And he developed really well. Yeah, he developed a lot of good players.
He had coaches like Jim Schwartz. And
that was the other thing.
Like notable guys on that staff who are going to bring like a command to that locker room. To where Urban had no command from day one.
That's true.
Doug Marrone had command at one point in time, but he kind of lost it. So I just think. If you're going to bring a guy in who's going to put the right guys in place, it's going to be Doug.
Well, and Urban had a lot of his guys, which were college guys there, right?
Exactly.
Where Doug is bringing a bunch of guys who, like, I looked at their coaches. Most of his staff, especially offensively, but a bunch of defensive guys too, coached with them, like underneath Schwartz and Wright and all. Press Taylor. Taylor he has been there. He literally was the offensive. I think pass game coordinator or whatever for
exactly.
And then he moved the whole way up. I'm pretty sure he's a co-offense coordinator for the Jaguars. And he's been with Doug EP from the day one in Philadelphia. Like, there's a lot of guys like that on that staff.
I just hope they give Doug a chance to implement his culture and bring it up to speed with his team. It's not going to be a quick turnaround. I don't think people don't want to go there. You don't necessarily have like the most talent on hand right now, but hey, draft well.
The sentimental thing for me with him is like I think that he's getting that chance to. He never got the chance to do what he wanted to do with Carson. As much as there might have been friction between him and Carson, and whatever that might have been, or I don't know.
It's all speculation.
At the end of the day, what I do know is that he wishes he could have been able to work a little more with Carson and get them because. Carson doesn't sign that big deal without Doug saying, "Yeah, I want to work with him for the next 6 years," right?
Surely.
So I think I'm glad that he gets the chance with Trevor Lawrence. And what else you were saying about the rest of it? I like how much we'll break it down, but like what their future can hold.
Oh, sure, yeah. They're actually they have some talent across the board. To be honest, some free agents who they've picked up in recent years who you really wouldn't even think about.
Yep.
They've hit on a couple late round draft picks, but just to tap into kind of more of a recap of how they pan out on offense and defense. They were the 27th overall ranked offense. They averaged 303 yards per game. That's nothing like stellar. Clearly, there's only 32 teams in the league,
and that's where Doug is gonna accelerate that.
It's gonna be a lot better, Trevor Lawrence threw for 3,600 yards, which is nothing to bat an eye at.
A decent amount of yards, especially for a rookie with the situation he was in.
100%. They came into this season after a year where they discovered James Robinson. So he was obviously the bell cow back who they thought would help. As well as they drafted Etienne, who played with Trevor. But he got injured, unfortunately, so that kind of threw it in. He only had 12 touchdowns, though.
Well, I was just about to say, so I have and it's stupid because it's nitpicking. It's only 3 touchdowns off, but like I just think 15 would have been like my mark for him this year.
Absolutely,
I'm not looking for him to get 20 or 30, but like 15, I think.
Considering what he went through,
but so like 12, I see it on paper. It is a little low for what I would like, but considering what he went through, that's a lot of yards. For what he went through.
Yep. And like I said, they do have James Robinson as the running back. Solid kid. I believe he's a 7th round pick last year. Came out of the gates really, really strong. He definitely had over 1,000 yards, but he got injured this year.
Right.
And that's very unfortunate.
He was trending in a good direction.
Yeah, he did have 763 yards and 8 touchdowns.
8 touchdowns. That's a good amount.
Definitely a solid number. I mean, clearly they used him when they got in the red zone. So that's a good sign heading into next season. I thought that's why them having the number 1 overall pick and what they do with it is huge. So.
Yes.
And this was the name. No. No, she go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say with the number 1 overall pick, but like But keep going.
No. This was a name where I've known Marvin Jones' name for years.
Me too.
Him and Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I'm a fantasy. I've used him. In fantasy.
Yeah, he's been awesome. Did not know he was in Jacksonville last year.
Oh, I did because I used him. I'd like to do like the daily fantasy for Sundays, and
awesome.
so like I use him a lot on the daily fantasy.
Awesome. Yeah, he had 832 yards, which isn't great, but at the same time, you got a rookie quarterback who's not being really protected. Your running back's down, and he also plays with DJ Chark is also there.
Yeah.
So that he gets some targets as well. So I was just.
And let's be honest, with how bad their offensive line is, it's impossible to develop routes the way you'd like to as a wide receiver in the first place.
Yeah.
So like they're working shorthanded right there.
Absolutely, and I'm sure a lot of his were get the ball out of Trevor's hands really quick.
Slants and stuff.
Exactly,
right,
to them. The defense did rank out a little bit better than in the late 20s. They were 18th overall. They did allow 457 points though, which was 5th most in the NFL. So 457 points, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But when you have a guy leading your defense and his name is Josh Allen with 7 sacks, you don't
How many sacks did he have on Josh Allen? He had 1 or 2, right?
1 or 2, and I think he had a pick 6 on him.
That's right. He had the pick 6.
He had the pick 6. Josh Allen pick 6. Josh Allen. Which is crazy.
Yeah, Josh Allen.
Miles Jack's still there. He led the team with 108 tackles.
Yeah.
He's a solid guy.
So I was gonna say a lot of their defense is like a continuity. As much as they lost a lot of guys, they've been together. So.
And it's it's kind of shows you how just crazy and how much of a business the NFL is when you think about the defense they just had a couple years ago with Calais Campbell and Jalen and AJ Boye.
If they could have figured out how to keep that defense, you know what I mean?
And I mean, that's just they were stacked.
That's something to build off of, no matter what your offense looks like. But they did feel like unless they had a quarterback, they had nothing, and they did not have a quarterback.
No, they didn't. And then Tyson Campbell was their leading. Led them in takeaways with 2 interceptions. So I wasn't really familiar with his name, but hey,
I'll be honest, not me either. But
you got to get it how you live.
What I was gonna say though, the next 2 things that we have highlighted, their draft picks, the amount of draft picks that they have.
Yeah, they have a surplus.
That is something you can beyond build off of, whether they want to trade it between now and the draft, or draft day trades, or just draft that many guys, 12.
They have 12 draft picks. Yeah, that's some really good draft capital. You could certainly shape. Looks like they have like 5 or 6. No, they have looks like 8 or 9 in the first 6 rounds. So with 4 in the 6th round, you could surely bottle them up and move some things around. So they can get better. They have to let Dougie P.
I was even going to say just having 4 in the first 3 rounds alone. I mean those 4 guys can. If you hit on 2 of them, that's a good number.
Absolutely. I mean, you get the Trayvon Diggs of the world in the 2nd round.
And so the next thing that I was going to highlight as well is the amount of cap space they have. I mean,
they're loaded.
Yeah, that is where they can actually build. If you want to start protecting Trevor Lawrence or even adding to the defense, which wasn't too terrible, or getting a weapon. I mean, they do have a ton of cap. So
they have almost 60 million.
Right.
So
that's a ton in the NFL.
That's a ton. And if you think about it, this kind of plays into like our predictions of what they think they're going to do in the draft. But we'll also touch on that. But if you think about it, you have 60 million in cap. You could spend significant money on, say, a pass rusher, and get an offensive tackle as the first pick, and save money. There's a million different ways
you can work
games that you could play.
Especially with Trevor, you have 60 million in cap, and Trevor's on a rookie deal.
Yep.
Now is the time.
Now is the time.
You brought in Dougie P, who went at that time.
Yep.
So that's also kind of part of it, I think.
They only have 2 guys that make over $10 million on their cap. So
when you're talking NFL, that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So
it makes sense that they lost. They're the number 1 team 2 years in a row.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
they are losing some notable guys.
Yeah,
and that's where it kind of plays into that first pick with them losing their left tackle.
Yeah,
or potentially. I'm sorry, they're potentially losing their left tackle. Cam Robinson. Obviously, he hasn't been a standout protector of Trevor, or we wouldn't necessarily be having this conversation.
That's very true.
So I thought that was interesting.
But he was their most highlighted guy by far.
I
So
think he was number 2 overall draft pick when he came out from Auburn.
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Back in the day.
But it is more than one guy in the offensive line sometimes. So,
oh yeah, absolutely. But it starts with that pillar.
Money to sign him though, so I mean I'm with you. They had the money, they knew they had the money, and they didn't make it done yet.
Exactly.
There is something to
if
that.
Trevor can know his blind side's protected at all times, he'll be a lot better off. So the other guys they're losing are Damian Wilson. He's kind of an interchangeable scheme guy, former Cowboy, former Chief.
Yeah.
He did win a Super Bowl with the Chiefs.
Yep.
So him and Anthony Hitchens, 2 former Cowboys, going to win a Super Bowl, of course. Tavon Austin, which is a name who's been lingering around for years.
We love him. So
he's a free agent.
Yeah,
he
I like skill guy.
Yeah, he only signs 1-year deals. It feels like he hops around on 1-year deals.
Oh yeah, he hops around with
Recently, and then DJ Chark, which is somebody who I would imagine that they try to retain if they're going to retain anyone.
Especially because he did have good chemistry with Trevor, and that that is a big deal.
I mean, he had
quarterback.
He had really good chemistry with Garner and
I agree.
Trevor,
I agree with that. But him and Marvin Jones also bringing him back, you could still bring somebody in that's just as good, if not better than them. Like they're not impeding anything like that by bringing him back.
You guys want Amari?
Well, they have a lot of draft picks, so
exactly,
possibly.
Exactly.
Well, your predictions for next year?
Yeah. You can go ahead and go first.
I think they're going to go... now, again, this is a rough estimate because, I'll be honest, I thought about this earlier. If you take my records of everybody and match them up to who they play next year, I might not be super accurate, right? So this is just... But I do...
This is the week after the Super Bowl.
Well, you're right. 5-12 is what I'm looking at. And only because as much as I like a lot that's going on with their franchise, and I do like a lot that's going on with their franchise, got to see, like you said, where we got to the Super Bowl. Got to see what they do with that $60 million. Got to see what they do with the draft. Right. There's so much that this 5 could go to 8 and I'm not saying Browns territory where everyone was all in on them over the last couple of years, but possibly if they spend the $60 million properly and draft properly, within 2 years they could be in that
100%.
Browns territory where at least you're talking about them in conversation.
I agree. I have the same 5-12. I definitely think they're going to be better suited just because they're not going to deal with the bullshit that they have to. But I still think they're going to have a lot of kinks, a lot of things to figure out. I think a big thing of what they do from like you said with that cap. There's Orlando Brown Jr. He's a free agent. Dalton Schultz is a free agent. There are some guys that are free agents that are out there that could fill some voids, give Trevor some protection, give Trevor some weapons. Then that could free you up to draft defense. I mean,
but the thing about it is,
interesting to see how they
with that much draft and that much actual capital, you can play around with a team like the Packers that are like that. They're kind of not desperate for one or the other, but like the Packers need to dump some money.
They do,
and so like you have the money and exactly. That's a great example. If you have the money and the draft capital to do it and just take people on for that. There's a good chance you get somebody.
There's Darius Smiths of the world.
Right, exactly. I'm not saying like top.
Marcus Williams, I think the safety from New Orleans is a free agent as well. So.
Exactly. Yeah, right. So if you do things properly, there is they really can flourish with the
and you have
situation
a Super Bowl,
they're in.
You have a coach that's done it.
Absolutely. So. I got them taking in Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan.
Makes sense. It's the flashy pick.
Listen, and I'm a Notre Dame guy, so clearly, like, it's not like I'm, this guy's, off the charts, blah, blah, blah. I was never, like, super before. But I will say I do, and I think we're just super early, so things might change between here and the draft process. But I do feel like he's going to be that star that, like, when we're getting said and done, when we're walking up to the draft, he's going to be the one that I think everyone is talking about.
And, Defensive Player of the Year this year was somebody who had 22.5 sacks. So that's the pass rush, that whole stigma, that whole game breaker, game changer thing is the future of defense.
And now I say that banking on, well, you can say your pick first.
Well, yeah, I have them slated to take Evan Neal out of Alabama, that left tackle. You get potentially, obviously he could be a bust, but I just think you get that pillar, that next generation guy, 6'7", 350. I mean, he's going to protect Trevor, or at least he's going to give you a chance to protect Trevor.
Listen, I don't like to broad brush things in sports, but when it comes to Alabama and offensive linemen, I'll broad brush it. The one thing that he's been doing for the last 4 years is preparing to protect somebody like Trevor Lawrence.
He played 3 different positions over the past 3 years. Yeah, just because they've had
awesome.
They've had a better guy at left tackle. They had Leatherwood. So he's played. I believe he played left guard, right guard. No, I'm sorry. Right tackle, left guard, and left tackle. Because he played next to Leatherwood last year. Okay. So he's done.
He played next to Dickerson and all of them.
Yeah, exactly. So that's crazy. That's insane.
And that's exactly it. But so again, Alabama offensive linemen, I'm not ever going to be worried about them, especially his size, how well he did, and the versatility that he had. Yeah, they prepare their players to be able to do that.
100%. He was a plug-in guy at Bama. I just think that he gives you that solid protection for the next at least 5 years, barring they stays healthy. At least 5 years. And then you're going to have to probably make him the highest paid left tackle in football.
Well, yeah, if he pans out. Listen, I always say on draft day, that's the worst case scenario. Then, you deal with that problem when you get to that problem. Yep. That's what I say about Hutchinson being drafted. I go in the sense of then they got to use some of that money
to protect
Trevor if they're going to take a defensive player.
And I would say the flip side, they need to use some of that money to bring in Avon.
Completely
agree. There's some guys out there that could fill that void, and you won't have to pay them, upwards of $15 million a year to do it. So I just think you keep Trevor upright, you have the best chance of winning.
I think you're not wrong, because I do think if you're going to play with the cap like that, your best option is to draft offensive line in that situation. Now I will say, disclaimer: I draft talent, not position. And that's how
best available.
Right, that's how I would always run it. So that's where that's why he won out on that.
Sure.
One. Number 2 pick in the draft, Detroit. You're on the clock.
On to a more interesting team. I feel like now that they've always been kind of interesting because of just how terrible
who they are.
But they hired MCDC, so Motor City Dan Campbell is a different breed.
And the Bengals just got out of this territory. Excuse me. The Bengals just got out of this territory. But, the Jets, Detroit, you throw the Jags in there, the Browns, the ultimate always suffering.
Yep.
I'm with you on the always being interested. Dan Campbell interests me. He always intrigues me when he talks and stuff. Yeah. But I always have wondered how much will it be bought into. It seems very bought into, by the way.
I agree. I thought they struggled out of the gates. They did finish 3-13-1, so they beat out the Jags by that tie in Pittsburgh. My poor aunt was there, and she's from Florida, so it was one of the first cold days. It was pouring down raining. It was unbelievable, and she had to sit through a tie.
My cousin's brother-in-law, who he likes football, but he really doesn't care about football other than the Steelers, was also at that game. First game we went to in 4 or 5 years, and
but to bounce back to the buy-in, you could see it. Those players loved him.
I agree.
They were bought in from the first press conference. How could you not be? I mean, he's an ex-player. He's a motivator. He's a master motivator. I would say. So
I agree.
I would think they're one of the more younger teams. So they kind of gravitated towards that, which was really, really cool to see, and it grew throughout the season.
So I don't mean to say that it doesn't happen in these other sports, but in baseball or basketball is the best example I have for you. You can have teams that show up to work and don't like each other at all. We've heard stories from both of those of championship teams in multiple instances, for both those sports. Football, I do feel like you need, especially if you're going to hire a Campbell type guy, you need them to buy in the players to buy in 8,000%, or else you're never going to be able to, they can't come in rolling their eyes at the coach or even disliking each other, honestly, the way you can in other sports. So you have to, what did he say? Like, eat the ankles off or
Eat
whatever.
the kneecap.
Right?
All on kneecaps.
Yeah.
He wanted a real lion at practice.
And like that could have went either way
Yeah.
with the players, but like I think by the end of the season it turned into, well, that's a genuine like that's just
he cried after a game.
Yeah,
Like he was invested.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So,
and also like that was a cool human moment because of everything that happened in their state. That within a couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
So,
and like you could just tell my man gives a shit.
like he cared, yes, about the community. But that's the other thing I wanted to say about the people being bought in. The players, when they talk about him, it feels like they feel like he cares.
Yep.
So
he inherited Jared Goff. Well, yeah, I mean the Lions, got Jared Goff and MCDC in the same year last year. So that's a tough transition. Jared Goff's not coming there with the most confidence or the most, the best mental situation, I would think. He kind of got forced out of the place that he went to. The Super Bowl, LA, I'm sure he loved playing. He played for Cal.
Oh, today, right now, I don't know how Jared Goff would be feeling. But the thing for me is when he got traded over there, okay, it had to feel a little like whatever. But at the same time, they intentionally sat him in that playoff game. And then in the middle of the playoff game, asked him to come into the game, even though they told him that he was hurt. Right. And he played well.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think, like, he probably was ready. Like, he saw the writing on the wall.
Oh, absolutely.
Which made him ready for the fresh start.
But I still know if Detroit was the best place for a fresh start.
It's not the best place for anybody, especially going into the situation of whether Campbell's good or not. First-year head coaches never get the success that you're going to eventually potentially get. I've always been back and forth on Goff. I always liked him because of I like McVay. So, I've always just been
I like McVay. I've never thought that Goff was anything. I thought he was definitely a below-average quarterback.
Well,
he never did it for me. Him and Carson came out the same year, right?
Yep. He was number one. Carson was number two.
I was a big Carson fan over him just because of Carson reminded me of a football player. Jared Goff does not remind me of a football player.
Okay, I'll give you that. The thing with me with Jared Goff and like the rest of the talent or the rest of the makeup of him is not a football player.
Yeah.
But like the thing that always impressed me about him is like he can make that throw. It doesn't happen enough. He doesn't read the defense well enough. I don't feel like there's all these other.
He can make every single NFL throw.
But and that was like always to me and that's why it works so well with Sean McVay because. There was never a situation like Garoppolo in the Super Bowl where he was asked to make the throw, a certain throw, and he didn't have it.
I agree.
He was always going to put that ball there, but he needs everything put in place for him. Clearly, I mean, there's no question at this point about that.
That's all right.
That is. I don't mind that from a quarterback.
But But the situation has to be like a San Francisco around Jimmy G. It's built for him to. I don't know what's going to happen with him, obviously.
Yeah.
But
I don't know what you said. Perfect.
Jared Goff, if he would have went to a franchise that was in a better state,
that's the point of
this. He would have.
Love it.
That's why he went to the Super Bowl with McVay, is because McVay,
and that's why he won 3 games with Detroit because it wasn't put in place.
100%.
So, and if we do this long enough, which is our goal to do this long enough, you're going to get tired of hearing this exact words. But what I will always relate a guy like Jared Goff to is Joe Flacco. I was having arguments when I lived in Ocean City, Maryland with the locals there because I'm an Eagles fan and they're all Ravens fans about Joe Flacco. This was before he won the Super Bowl. I was having arguments with them I will take a Joe Flacco because after the Vic and McNabb era, the Eagles were juggling quarterbacks that I could name right now, but none of you care about nor would know, so it doesn't matter. I was sitting there you guys are crazy for not liking your quarterback, and then he went on and won a Super Bowl. So
Joe Flacco has a huge arm.
But I look at Jared Goff very similar to that.
I agree.
He needs things in place. Joe Flacco needed everything in place. He's not going to run the offense for you.
Great defense, yeah.
He needs a good defense, right?
Again, Bolden.
You're going to need somebody to make the play. But you ask him to make the throw, he'll make the throw every time. And if you ask him just to put the ball up and see if it's receivable, he'll do that too. So that's kind of where I'm at with Jared Goff. And like you said, I don't hate that kind of player.
Now, to highlight Goff on the other end, I thought he got better each week. He fought some injuries, but him and Amon-Ra St. Brown, they really began to grow a great chemistry. He threw that game-winning pass to him. I think that was their first win. That was huge. I mean, so he's definitely built some trust.
He also had a game-winning pass drop week 2 of the season.
He did, and I think they were great again. There's always there's always like a joke that I think they had a winning record against the spread.
Oh, they did.
Like,
they did. Yeah.
So in the betting world, they were winners.
Well, that's a big deal, right? Yeah. But that also what shows about the effort and stuff like that is that whether you betting part of it aside,
they were
the fact that they were always close.
They lost a lot of close games.
I mean, they lost a game off the longest kick in the history of the NFL. Like that, that sums it up.
Unbelievable.
It's not like most years where they're just bad. Like they might have been bad, but they really did. They were there.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving kind of was a slow day.
That's always the worst.
That's it for Paris. It is so bad. And you know what's been bad lately? And like I don't complain about the things in sports because I like the setup of the Lions and then the Cowboys and then a random night game. I do like that setup even as an Eagles fan. But like the Lions games are getting stale lately. Like it has been getting stale.
Cowboys lost 3 straight.
Well, I mean that's not getting stale. But like but that is. The Cowboys game was riveting, and I know that's hard for a Cowboys fan because it was probably sickening for you. But even you take myself out as an Eagles fan, like football fans across the whole nation.
Glad you guys had fun.
That was just riveting television.
I went and threw up my dinner.
It was the best. That's the best reality TV you're gonna find in the NFL.
Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, the Dallas Cowboys are
the best reality
in the NFL
TV show there is. Joke.
So. You talk about St. Brown. I do love. He was a rookie last year.
Yeah,
late round. Well, not late, but 4th round pick.
Yeah, he got drafted late.
And Sewell. And
Penei Sewell. They actually invested. Literally, like we're saying about Jacksonville.
Yeah, they
went ahead and did that. They made that unpopular pick.
Yeah.
The pick that the Cowboys made when they drafted Zach Martin, when they drafted Travis Frederick. The one I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what in the hell would we draft this guy for? And then next thing you know, DeMarco Murray has 2,000 yards in the league, and you're like, that's why. Okay. So that's kind of they're invested in their offense. Yeah. They're invested in protecting Goff. Yep. They hit on a 4th round pick with St. Brown. So
they hit on a 3rd round pick too with Alan McNeil. He was a good run stopper for them. Now he didn't play a ton, but he plugged up holes for them when he was playing. And so like I do look at good core. Like,
so that just indicates
if you hit on 3 guys,
they're drafting well.
Right, yeah, if you hit on 3 guys early like that,
and a 3rd rounder, a 4th rounder, that just goes to show that you are
right.
That, you're building from inside out.
That's the building blocks that you need for success.
Exactly.
That is actually what got the Browns to where they are. How good they actually. It took forever. It took 20 years of having the top 5 pick, but. When they got the right guy in there,
certainly, you start building, and you got these 3rd and these 4th rounders who are coming to play, and they're each game they get better. I mean, that's just, and then then that's where the window gets created of we gotta at least get to the conference championship. We gotta get to the Super Bowl while these guys are on rookie deals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's huge.
Or I know Goff's deal is big, but clearly, once that contract expires, if he feels like the situation's right for him and they feel like the situation's right for them,
they can get him for cheaper.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be committed for more than a year or 2 because he knows where he stands and they know where they stand, and so it puts you in that cycle of looking for quarterback maybe, but at the same time he is. Let's drag that along for another year or 2. When you get to that point in the contract, I think they still have a year or 2 left on that. So
we had mentioned before they tied with Pittsburgh. Yeah. So that was interesting. They did get a huge win and an absolutely convincing, dominating win over Arizona. They beat them. They beat the brakes off of the Cardinals from beginning to end. I believe that was either right before or right after the Cardinals beat the Cowboys. So I was just like. My mind just warped. I either thought we were going to blow them away, or I was like, "How the hell does this happen?"
Right? Yeah.
And then they wrapped it up, and it was a garbage, end of the year game. Aaron only played maybe a quarter, but they did end the season on a win against Green Bay.
Yeah, which is something for them.
Definitely. MCDC could come in next year and say, "Hey, they went and lost in the 1st round because we pissed on their moral."
Yeah. No, it's very true.
We pissed in their Cheerios.
Yeah. And that's a division rival. It was Aaron.
Or we laid the blueprint.
Right, yeah. You got to show teams how to do it. A psychological advantage.
Yeah,
I like that.
And that's definitely a Dan Campbell move.
And since they're bought in, I think that it would work.
So I think heading into next season, they got some steam. And they're a gritty town, and he's gonna big up the grittiness.
Oh my God!
And he's gonna
Yes.
He's going to make them think, like, everyone hates you, no one likes you.
Because you're from Detroit.
Because you're from Detroit.
I think what he'll use as well is, like, the Detroit Rams shirts and stuff like
that.
That we're going around. Like,
Oh, my gosh.
Look, they're just disrespecting you in your own
And they have
city.
a loyal fan base.
Right,
and I'm sure
like their fan base is like...
I'm sure if you win in Detroit, they're going to love you a lot more than they love Matthew Stafford.
Look at the Pistons. I mean,
exactly.
I think that's a good example. So, or even the Red Wings, honestly. That's a better example.
Yeah. They didn't rank out the best on offense. They were 22nd overall. They averaged 322 yards per game overall. So that's not great by any means. But, first year offense, I'm sure, with Dan Campbell. First year with Jared Goff, like we touched on. They had some new weapons, some unfamiliar guys. So, hey.
My guy
22 is better than 23. So.
My guy Deuce Staley was over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Running things on the offense too. So
and that leads. I'll lead off with Deandre Swift. He was injured a lot, but he's a really good back, and he illustrates a lot of previous Deuce Staley backs. So
yeah, that's very true.
I think he's going to be good.
Yeah, I do like.
He's a little bit of like a bigger, stronger, faster Westbrook. I feel like.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So,
but even to the Deuce Staley backs, like, he's a much more talented like Clement or. He's like a breed between Clement or like a Jay Ajayi or LeGarrette Blount. Like he can do the bruising, but he also can do what Clement did like out of the backfield.
He can catch the ball. That's
what I mean. Like Clement did that out of the backfield. Crazy, but
he was really good. Yeah,
he can run people over too when he needs to.
Yeah, he's a force. He was great. He's been great since high school. He played at played in Philly, and then he went to Georgia. Showed out Georgia, but he was behind Nick Chubb and those guys. So, I mean, just think about that running back room.
That's true.
Jared Goff, he passed for 3,245 yards, 19 touchdowns. So while he didn't have as many passing yards as Trevor, he had 19 touchdowns. So that I think that's experience.
I was gonna say that to me, and I'd have to look it up. This is no stats. This is just me speculating. I'd have to feel like that's a lot of red zone differences right there. Like Trevor's still learning how when the box gets too small like that, how to navigate it. Where Goff is, I mean, he was helped by Sean Payton, I'm sorry, Sean McVay. So like clearly, you know what I mean. Like you said, like experience.
Yeah, and I would say the highlight of their team this year was Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah,
he wasn't Notre Dame.
No, he went to USC.
His brother
went to Notre Dame.
Okay, cool. That's actually an awesome story. But surprise, 912 receiving yards, 5 tuds. That's huge. I mean, my man almost had 1,000 yards.
Which that's what I was gonna say. That's the most impressive part to me.
That's something to build on.
Like that means he was utilized so much. Like, and he became a staple of what they were, an anchor of their offense.
They would have had to pay Marvin Jones a free agent second deal,
and he stepped right in.
Exactly. So that's kudos to the front office. Kudos to the scouting department.
Almost made it through. Mentioned him twice without saying USC, so that always sucks. Now defense.
Yeah, defense. They ranked 29th overall, so they were not good. They were second in most points allowed, only to the Jets. They gave up 467 points. The Jets gave up 504. So nothing to write home about there. They did have a leading pass rusher, Charles Harris, with 7.5 sacks, which is it's all right. But clearly their defense struggled. So they definitely weren't giving the offense the best opportunity. I'm sure that played into field advantage and just a bunch of things that didn't help the offense, especially that they played. That's why I love football so much, because you begin to peel back the layers and you think, okay, well, the defense was 29th overall. They gave up all these points. The offense was 22nd, which isn't great, but they were so close in every game.
Right.
What would have happened if the defense would have played a little bit better?
Well, and so that was going to be my next question, and I don't know it. I don't think well enough to give my own answer on it. But defense is his thing. So
No, he was a tight end.
Oh, that's true. Okay, yeah, that's right. But what did he coach? Didn't he coach linebackers in Miami?
I thought he was always a tight end.
Maybe, I don't know. Okay, all right.
Could be wrong. But
no, you're right. But okay.
He played tight end in Dallas. That's the only reason I know that. Him and Jason Witten.
Well, I knew he played in Dallas, but I know he coached in Miami for a while.
On Miami, the Saints. Yeah. He was on Sean Payton's staff.
Yes. But, okay, so that does make sense.
Yeah, so, look what the Cowboys did with 1 year with bringing in just
that's very true.
A good defensive
the right person, yeah. Or the Eagles, like you said with Schwartz earlier, like what they were doing with that.
Yeah, exactly. They had their leading tackler had 105 tackles, and they did have a guy with 6 interceptions. I'm not even going to attempt
I hear you there.
pronounce his name. I was practicing last night in bed, but it wasn't that fluent yet. So
$5 fine from the Levitard show on that one too.
I don't feel comfortable.
The draft picks are what I think also, future of building from them. I mean, having 5 in the first 3 rounds.
3 rounds.
That's
huge.
Just,
so much value there.
You could build off of that.
Especially with what we just talked about. They've been drafting well.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
That's big. That's huge. They got 2 in the first, 1 in the second, 2 in the third. I don't know. That could be a quick flip of a franchise.
I completely agree. That's a great way and a great base, and how close they were in every game. Only a couple rookies and doing the right thing with in free agency really could actually bridge that gap that we're talking about.
Yeah, and they are plus in their total team salary cap with over $21 million. So,
right.
So they're not in debt.
Yeah.
Their biggest contract is absolutely Jared Goff.
That was 31 part of that.
$31 million.
That trade is that they would take the rest of that contract.
Yeah, that's huge, but they don't have many other big contracts outside of that. They have a couple more than the Jaguars do, I would say, but Trey Flowers, is their second biggest cap hit at $23 million. So those 2 guys, and then it kind of falls off a cliff. So I just think that's important there. If they use that wisely. Now, obviously, they need to save some for the draft. They're not losing any big free agents that they need to necessarily pay.
Right.
So I think which
also could mean good news for them, because usually in those situations, and this is me not doing enough research. I don't know their GM well enough, but at least, and me and Howie have a love-hate relationship, but Howie in a situation like that does a really good job of, with nobody coming up, reworking deals so that everyone kind of gets some money around, and there is a way to you know what I mean, all that opens it more.
Yeah, and that's the new thing in the league is
the cap geniuses.
Yeah, the cap geniuses, the cap gymnastics,
yes.
where either you kick the can down the road and you keep that money flowing, or you build in restructures and. Dak signs $40 million last year, but he's already restructured.
No, you're absolutely right. And there's a whole department
it's
dedicated to figuring out how to, okay, nobody's coming up this year. How do we rework that Jared Goff number then? That kind of stuff.
And you always have this sell of, hey, you got to keep some money. You can't take up the whole pie, as Jerry Jones would say. With 2 people, everyone's got to eat off the same pie.
Yeah, so, that's very true. Yes.
They're like I said before, they're not losing anyone really to write home about a backup quarterback and a linebacker.
Right, I agree. Yeah.
Other than that, I just don't foresee them really being pressed to retain them guys. So they can use that 21 mil on a number of people.
I agree.
Where do you want to start offense or defense? So that's kind of where I was thinking there. I think they're set up in a good spot.
I think so as well. Like you said, with you got to do the right things with the money, but they have the opportunity, like we said, with the draft picks and everything. What you said about the defense, I was actually thinking Juju or somebody on offense to add to the wide receiving core and whatnot. The base of going forward, though, is just going to be growing and developing what you're going to do with the quarterback position anyway. So, maybe saving the money and not going out for somebody big is
either. A Juju would be certainly a staple guy.
Yeah.
Certainly help the wide receiver room. A Dalton Schultz would be a huge.
Oh my gosh! That would be
yardage tight end.
Yeah.
I'm sure that would give Jared Goff a safety valve.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
There's definitely some ways on offense you could go, but like we said, they've been drafting well. So I personally would go through the draft, have my 21 mil, and then decide what we're going to do. Yeah, you probably miss out on some free agents, but you don't necessarily need big name free agents. So
I agree with that. And also, since the Jared Goff situation isn't going to be resolved next year or the year after anyway, you have time to figure yourself out around the quarterback position. And either if Jared Goff's going to be the guy, or what you're going to do to make sure you get the guy around the right team.
I agree 100%.
Predictions for next year?
Yeah, go ahead.
Listen, I don't have them at a lot of wins because I don't know where the talent is. As close as they were to everything last year, the schemes and all that kind of stuff I do find to be important in the NFL. And there was a lot.
They're going to change it.
Right. So can they make the leap and can they make the gap? Absolutely. The drafting is, I think, going to be the biggest thing that could change my number on them winning this year, because 5 draft picks in the first 3 rounds is that is franchise altering.
Sure.
And I mean, it could do something for them down the road.
I went a little bit out on the limb. I believe in Motor City Dan Campbell. I believe that there's no real, that it's not a fraud that they were in all those games. It's not a fraud that they're finding these late round steals. So I have them at 8 and 9. I just think they're going to come out with an edge. They're going to be a year older together. Goff has a year in the building with the coaching staff. I really don't think it's far-fetched to think that they go 8 and 9 or even crest that 6-7 win mark.
So I don't disagree that it's realistic for them. And I also wanted to put the disclaimer that I have them at the 4 wins is because I actually think that the team in their division to make a leap or a move would be the Bears, because I do think that Justin Fields can, with the right stuff around him, get them there. So that's when I start to weigh things like Aaron Rodgers. If he goes back to Green Bay, that becomes So when I started weighing things up and down, that was also part of it. But I think what you're saying is absolutely correct, and they have a very good potential and opportunity moving forward. I think anybody, if you're drafting in this position and you're plus salary, just off the bat, you're in a pretty decent spot.
Yeah, I would say.
Well, I got them drafting George. Was it Carl Fitz? He's from Purdue. Here's the thing that always stood out to me about him. Okay, one, he played almost 50 snaps in every game except one this year. I think he played 49 snaps in every game except one this year. And then the other thing is, he doesn't necessarily get sacks, but I've always told you before, sacks aren't really my barometer. Mm-hmm. But I do like quarterback hurries, and he had 25 quarterback hurries in 2019, and he had 39 last year. He was off the charts. It was every time the other team went drop back to pass last season.
He's a motor guy.
Yeah, he was pushing offensive linemen around. I do feel this might be a little high for him, because not that he's bad on the run or anything like that, but he is an edge rusher. There's no question.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but that's where the NFL is kind of the direction of it.
That's the TJ Watts of the world,
right? So
yeah, no, and the way I kind of gauge that is he played against he played at Purdue, so he played against
yes.
Those Ohio State linemen are always great, but Rashawn Slater, for not this year, but he was number 1 rated tackle in the draft last year.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's definitely seen the NFL talent.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I was just gonna say Northwestern, Purdue, Penn State have all produced some pretty
dogs,
great offensive linemen over the last couple of years, and he did go up against.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Iowa.
I went with Aiden Hutchinson. I think. I think that he seems like a Michigan. That
is a good story.
That whole thing is certainly possible, but I think Dan Campbell and the Lions are going to kind of take the notion of, hey, let's draft Aiden, let's get that generational pass rusher, and then let's spend some of this money and these draft picks and just build that offense out, and then kind of just take that notion. Aiden Hutchinson had 18 and a half career sacks, and he only played, I think, a few games last year.
Yeah.
He got hurt in 2020,
so
he had 4 sacks in 2019 and then 14 last year, or this past season. He was a menace.
Yeah.
He was always off the edge.
I was
huge
gonna say
guy.
This past season he was just
solid.
incredible.
And that Michigan defense, they have some really, really good high round draft picks on that defense, and for him to be getting that first and second overall love, just goes to show. He definitely had a great season. So, and he's built for it. He's huge. He's that body. He's that prototypical, new age pass rusher.
So I was actually going to say that too, like his size and what he does, physically, to the offensive lineman and whatnot. He is exactly what teams are looking for today, and I do think that's, like I said before about him, that's why I think he'll turn into the guy this draft.
Oh, I agree.
I really enjoyed the state of the franchises.
I hope everyone enjoyed it. I know, the big thing is, like I said, the NFL draft, how we can build it up to the NFL draft. We would love to see your predictions on the first 2 franchises. So if you want to hit us with hashtag the Hoodie and Ozz Pod 2022 NFL, just give us your predictions. Give us your the record predictions and who you think they'll draft. And who knows? Maybe we'll have a little wager or something on that. Stay tuned for that part. But
I love it. I absolutely love it. That's fantastic. The other thing I was gonna say is I really I want to add to that. I hope people also, it helps them understand where we are with these franchises because,
kind of paint that picture.
Right.
Because the draft is all we're going to hear about, so why not know a little bit about each team?
Very true.
And so next week we have
Houston,
and I believe the Giants.
You know what? I think you're right.
So that'll be fun going over a defensive rival, but I'm excited for next week, and then I'm super excited to build on it. And as the situations for each franchise change, it will kind of have to change our conversation. So